the brain, if you can think of it as sort of like, a large electrical system, that if perhaps there's for example, this is the brain and there's damage from here to here, right? And that's the optimal path to get from this area of the brain to this area of the brain in processing. The brain can rewire itself to go around, and it just reroutes around damaged areas. And this is one of the core components of neuroplasticity. Now, the other component of neuroplasticity that's very important is sponge neurons or mirror neurons, and it's a very popular saying in this sort of psychiatric and psychotherapeutic field, is that neurons that fire together wire together. And this is very, very important, because if you have these unrealized traumas, then there's all these other chemicals that are kind of getting leached out into the brain chronically that aren't necessarily, optimum in terms of day-to-day health. That facilitates, and it's kind of a domino effect, it facilitates sort of a negative filtering or a negative self-talk or a negative sort of philosophy of walking through life as a result of, trauma, let's say. And it manifests itself differently with everybody. But with neuroplasticity, we know that mind can heal brain, because the thoughts that you think can influence how your brain fires neuronically and how it will rewire itself. And so I just use an extreme example of, say there's a damage to a particular area of the brain, it can rewire itself. But even if there's no damage per se, you have had a traumatic experience and it goes unresolved, well then you'll continue to think in these negative ways. And those neurons that fire together, it's kind of like having a path through the forest. The more you walk it, the wider it gets. And then eventually the metaphor is that it'll become a highway. So if you're thinking negative, you'll have these negative highways in your brain. If you're thinking in positive ways, you can create positive highways in your brain. So you literally can alter your brain chemistry and neurochemistry by thought. And this is why it's so, so important, if for anybody that's has experienced trauma, that they grieve, they process, they mourn, and they get over and through it in the best way that they can, because this allows the brain to be holistic. And when it's holistic in this fashion, then the processing is going from the executive function down. Okay, so it's a top-down processing. And when the brain is holistic like this, all of these sort of quote-unquote good chemicals are being released. Serotonins, dopamines, norepinephrines, oxytocin, the love chemical, right? And so it's so interesting to make sure that we have an understanding that the mind and the brain are so connected in this way, and that literally your thoughts can help you to heal.